Welcome to our channel Crime Loom, the place where true crime stories come alive. Every day, millions of people pass through Heathrow Airport without a second thought. They trust that everything behind the scenes is safe and protected. But one night, while the airport slept, millions of pounds vanished without a sound. There were no alarms, no explosions, and no dramatic chase. Just a quiet, perfect crime. The robbers did not break in. They did not run. They walked in like they belonged there. This was not a street crime. This was an inside job at one of the most secure airports in the world. And what makes this story even more chilling is that most of the money was never found. This is the true story of the British Airways Heathrow Robbery. London Heathrow Airport never truly sleeps. Even late at night, planes land quietly, vehicles move between terminals, and workers perform their duties without pause. For most people, Heathrow is a place of travel, reunions, and departures. But behind the public areas, there is another world. A world of cargo bays, secure warehouses, and restricted zones where valuable items move under strict control. In this hidden side of the airport, one of Britain's boldest robberies took place. In February 2002, British Airways was handling a routine cash shipment arriving from Bahrain. Transporting money for banks was not unusual. Airlines had done it for years. The shipment contained millions of pounds in cash, packed securely and guarded under strict procedures. Everything followed the usual process. The flight landed on time. The cargo was scheduled to be moved quickly from the aircraft to a secure warehouse, close to the runway. Security guards were present. Surveillance cameras covered the area. Access to this part of the airport was restricted to authorized staff only. On paper, the operation was safe. The people responsible believed nothing could go wrong, but someone was watching, unknown to airport authorities. Criminals had already planned every detail. They knew which flight carried the cash. They knew the exact time it would land. They knew where the cargo would be unloaded and how it would be moved. This information was not public. It came from inside the system. As the aircraft was unloaded in the early hours, a group of men appeared in the secure area. They wore high-visibility jackets like airport workers. They moved confidently, without hesitation. Anyone watching would assume they were part of the normal operations. This confidence was one of their strongest weapons. They approached the security guards suddenly. The moment was quick and controlled. The guards were threatened, restrained, and overpowered before they could raise an alarm. There was no chaos, no loud shouting. The robbers knew speed and silence were key. Within minutes, the criminals had access to the cash containers. They transferred the money into a waiting vehicle. The operation was so smooth that by the time anyone realized something was wrong, the robbers were already gone. Around 40 million pounds had vanished into the night. When police arrived, the scene was disturbing in its calmness. There were no signs of struggle beyond the restrained guards. No forced doors. No broken locks. Everything pointed to an operation that relied on knowledge rather than violence. Investigators quickly reached the same conclusion. This was an inside job. Only a small number of people knew the details of the shipment. Someone with access to flight schedules and cargo information had shared it. The police began one of the largest investigations Heathrow had ever seen. British Airways employees were questioned. Security contractors were interviewed. Phone records were checked. Financial histories were examined. Anyone who had access to cargo schedules became a potential suspect. The media quickly picked up the story. Headlines described it as a modern-day heist. The public was shocked. If criminals could steal millions from Heathrow, what else was possible? The robbery raised serious concerns about airport security across the country. As weeks passed, investigators focused on one British Airways employee in particular. He had access to sensitive cargo information. He knew when large sums of money were arriving. Police believed he had shared details with criminals. Outside the airport, in exchange for a share of the money, arrests followed. Several suspects were taken into custody. Some were charged. Others were released due to lack of evidence. The case became complicated. Proving who knew what and when was difficult. One major problem remained. Most of the money was never found. Experts believe the cash was quickly divided into smaller amounts. It was likely moved through criminal networks, laundered through businesses, or taken out of the country. Once cash disappears into the underground economy, tracing it becomes nearly impossible. The investigation dragged on for years. Court cases followed. Some convictions were secured, but the full picture was never completely clear. Many people believed the masterminds behind the robbery had escaped justice. For British Airways, the robbery was deeply damaging. While the airline itself was not accused of planning the crime, the involvement of an employee caused embarrassment and concern. The company faced questions about background checks, access control, and internal monitoring. Heathrow Airport also made changes. Security procedures were reviewed. Cargo operations were given greater attention. Surveillance systems were improved. Staff training was updated to detect unusual behavior, even from trusted workers. The robbery exposed a hard truth. Security systems often focus on external threats, but insiders with access and knowledge can be just as dangerous. Years later, the British Airways Heathrow robbery is still studied by security experts. It is used as an example of how trust can be exploited. The criminals did not need advanced technology. They did not need to break through walls or bypass alarms. They used routine, familiarity, and human weakness. For the guards involved, the night left lasting scars. Being overpowered in what was supposed to be a secure environment shattered their sense of safety. Many later spoke about how quickly their world changed in just a few minutes. For the public, the story changed how people viewed airports. Heathrow was no longer seen as untouchable. The robbery showed that even the most secure places have vulnerabilities. Some believe the robbery was carefully planned over many months. Others think it relied heavily on opportunity and luck. Either way, it was one of the largest cash thefts in British history. Even today, questions remain. Who really planned the robbery? How many people were involved? Where did all the money go? Some believe parts of the stolen cash are still hidden, waiting to be discovered. Others believe it was spent long ago. The case also highlights how modern crime has evolved. There was no dramatic shootout, no high-speed chase through the city. The crime was quiet, calculated, and almost invisible. That is what makes it frightening. The British Airways Heathrow robbery serves as a reminder that security is not just about cameras and guards. It is about people. Every system depends on trust. And when that trust is broken, even the strongest defenses can fail. Behind every uniform and access badge is a human being with choices. Criminals understand this. They look for weaknesses not in walls, but in routines and relationships. Heathrow continues to operate every day, handling millions of passengers and billions in cargo. Most travelers will never know what happens behind the scenes, but the memory of that night in 2002 remains. A single operation exposed cracks in one of the world's most secure airports. It changed how security is viewed forever, and it proved one unsettling truth. Sometimes, the greatest threat is already inside. The British Airways Heathrow robbery proved that even the safest places can be broken from the inside. Years have passed, flights still land every day, and passengers move on without knowing what once happened behind closed doors. Millions of pounds disappeared, and most of it was never recovered. Some questions were answered, but many remain buried in silence. And that is what makes this story so disturbing. If a crime like this could happen at Heathrow, it could happen anywhere. For watching more amazing videos like this, subscribe our channel Crime Loom.